Welwitschia mirabilis at our conservatory, the UC Davis Botanical Conservatory, is about 55 years old. But the ones in the Namibia desert are estimated, the oldest ones are estimated to be 1,000 to 1,500 years old. And yeah, that's old for a plant, but the amazing thing about this plant is it will only ever get 2 leaves its whole entire life. And that's incredibly unusual for a plant. Most plants do not have meristematic tissue in their leaves. The stems have the meristematic tissue, and that's the tissue that allows plants to continuously grow, produce roots, produce leaves, but usually the leaves don't have it. This plant does though. So right at the base here of its leaves, right at the base by its stem, is some meristematic tissue. So if you look at this leaf, it just keeps growing and growing and growing, just like hair. So they only get 2 leaves. It does look like it has more leaves, but just like hair, if you don't trim it, it gets split ends. And that's what happened here. They're pretty thick leaves, as you would think, for leaves that don't fall off. They have to be protected from predation. And they're curly. Why are they curly? Well, the theory is that since this plant does grow in the desert, but it's a coastal desert, that it's possible that the fog seeps into there, hits the sides of the leaf, condenses, and then is another water source for the plant. Now, the roots on the Welwitschia are incredibly deep, so it's able to tap into water down below. This plant doesn't flower, technically. It has strobili, which are cones, and it's something that we call dioecious, meaning there is a plant that's male and a plant that's female. You won't find both cones on one plant. And the cones are fairly small, and unlike a lot of plants that produce cones, this is not pollinated necessarily by wind. Most, like say pine cones, move pollen around from the wind. But this plant produces a little bit of nectar on the strobili, which are going to attract insects because nectar is sugar and water. It's a great carb food source. So it's a combination of possibly bees and wasps, beetles, and even they think flies that are able to move pollen around. And yes, we do grow these at the conservatory besides our old one here. They do produce seeds, and the seeds have a little winged seed cap. And we start them in standard succulent soil, and then they just start germinating. They do need to be protected inside, of course, because they're from the deserts in Africa and they don't handle cold. They're pretty slow growing. Of course, this is 55 years old, and we try to avoid pruning off the ends. So the ends do turn brown and brittle. Every once in a while, we forget to tell a student or an intern not to trim the edges of the plant, and they come in very proud of themselves. And of course, we only have ourselves to blame for doing bad training. But I heard at some university in California, which will go unnamed, UC Berkeley, that some volunteer cut the whole entire leaf off, thinking they were doing something good because look at the leaf is browning at the end. So really what they did is cut years and years or decades worth of growth off of that plant, but I'm sure it came back. Ours tend to get a little bit of mealybugs, which is a sucking insect, but other than that, they're pretty pest-free for us. We hand pollinate them. We move the pollen around to get seeds. We use them in labs to show the students different leaf morphology and desert plant morphology. So that is the Welwitschia, a highly unusual plant due to that meristematic tissue at the base of its leaves. The fact that these leaves never fall off, they just keep growing and growing, and that you will see the oldest ones 1,000 to 2,000 years old with 1,000-year-old leaf. So hopefully that piqued your interest in the Welwitschia. Thanks.